Hi, Sadie here. I want to talk to you about advocacy. This lesson is going to be on speaking well and listening well. I'm really glad that you could join us for our third and final presentation in the Communication and Advocacy training series. So far, our focus has been on communication skills, specifically how to listen and how to speak in ways that bring connection and understanding. In the first discussion we had together, we focused on sharpening our listening skills. In our second discussion, we learned that even speaking well requires some skills. These skills can richly enhance your own life, but also enables you to share your strength with your clients for their benefit and growth. While learning these skills and how to share them with your clients, whether you know it or not, you've been learning about the topic we like to call advocacy. So let me talk about the purpose of this training. Advocacy is such a large, encompassing word that can apply to a lot of different situations. So in today's training, we'll focus on empowering our clients to learn self-advocacy skills. The skills you have previously learned for yourself and for your client's benefit of speaking and listening well are two valuable pieces in this pursuit of advocacy. Let's start with defining advocacy. What is advocacy? Disability Rights of California is one of our California's protection and advocacy systems, and they describe the major goal of self-advocacy as this: to empower a person to speak for themselves and participate in decisions affecting their life. Listening and speaking are related to advocacy. Let's go back to Kathy Jo. She displayed advocacy for herself when she finally learned to say, help. In other words, she was communicating. This is what I want, and this is what I need some help. Instead of just smiling and nodding without words to participate in the decisions affecting her life. Her instructors listening to her and asking her questions about her responses challenged Kathy Jo to speak her needs. This is advocacy, and you play a major role in our clients learning these self-advocacy skills. The first thing I want to talk about is who participates in these life decisions. So, communication skills are really important because they help the person who is going to be making the decision participate. Of course, I'm talking about the client. The client themselves are the ones that should be making the decisions about their lives. They should be the ones deciding how they manage their lives. This can be complicated and difficult at times because the families, care providers, medical professionals may want to get involved in the process. And it's important that we support the client, but it's more important that the client is making the decision for themselves. All right, so I want to talk about another topic. Self-advocacy versus us advocating for an individual. There's a lot of times that you as a care provider are going to share a role of advocacy in someone's life. Yep, that's what I said. You're going to share it. If a person has a difficult time sharing their needs or understanding their rights, a care provider can assist in voicing the person's concerns and advocating on their behalf. This is a very important form of advocacy, but it's not exactly what we're going for all the time. What we want even more than that is we want to encourage the person to speak for themselves, to speak up and let their own voice be heard in the process. I want to introduce you to someone. This is my dear friend and a treasure, Jessica Noble. She's a wealth of experience and wisdom in self-advocacy, and so therefore she encourages her clients to learn these same skills. So we asked Jessica what she would want from someone that was advocating for her. And here's what she said. I would want someone to know where I was coming from. I would want someone to listen to me. I want them not just to hear the end goal, but know where I am coming from and why I want this as a goal. To Jessica, advocacy is not just completing a task, accomplishing that goal. It's about the process. It's about this process that takes into account the person's feelings, desires, abilities. Instead of just accomplishing a task and checking something off a list, this is about enjoying the process along the way and getting to know the person through the process. And how do you get to know someone? You have to listen and you need to understand that person that you're supporting. When asked what advice she would give to a team member on how to advocate for their clients, Jessica said that it's vital to involve the person you support in the process. To do this requires listening, knowing, and being observant of your client. It involves asking the person questions, listening to what they have to say, and involving them in the process of advocacy. Knowing how you can speak in a way that will involve the client and listening in a way that they can really be heard will create a partnership between you and the client. So yeah, that's what we're talking about here is partnership. Whether you're advocating for or modeling advocacy, in the end, it's the clients whose voice should be heard loud and clear. And we should really know what is in their heart, what they want to accomplish with their life. This is true partnership. I want to talk about what advocacy is not for a minute. I get it. I've been doing this a long time. We get passionate. We get inspired. We see what can happen for a client and we want to see it happen. We want to see it come true. So we insert ourselves into their choices. Let me give you some examples. You have a client that you know wants to lose weight and yet they go to McDonald's every week. That same client also wants to save money and yet they go to McDonald's every week. You want to see them establish happy, healthy relationships, and yet they keep going out with that guy that treats them like trash. We can get in situations where our passion and our heart for people actually gets in the way of advocating for them. So here's some examples. First of all, if you ever find yourself telling people what to do, you're in the wrong place. We shouldn't be telling our clients how to feel, what to think. Essentially, we shouldn't be giving our own opinions and inserting ourselves into the conversation. I know this can be hard when you care about somebody, but think about the times people have told you what to do. How well did it work out? How many times did someone come and insert themselves and tell you the best thing that you should do for you? And did you actually do it? Did it really work out well? Well, you're probably going to find that's the same thing for most of our clients. They need to come to their own conclusions about their life. If they ask you your opinion or they ask for advice, that's one thing. But if you're telling them what to do, judging them, controlling them, giving them unwanted opinions, it's going to create distance, and that is not advocacy. So we talked to Jessica about this, and she gave us some examples. Here's a story that she shared with us. I attract people who like to help, but a lot of people who like to help tend to like to be in charge and in control. They see what needs to be done, for example, that I might be taking a long time to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and they know that they could do it in half the time. So then someone will come over to help me, take the peanut butter, take the knife, take the bread, and accomplish the task for me. I'm not against the task being done. However, this process shuts me down. Instead, to me, it's empowering to be able to have partnership. Not having someone just do something for me, but do it with me. And yes, it takes longer than just doing it for me, but it involves me in the process of accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish, and we get to do it together. You can see there's a lot of practical applications to what Jessica's saying. You're going into a bank, doctor's appointment, or helping a client look for an apartment. It's easy to want to take the peanut butter and the knife and the bread and do it yourself. But the client is missing out and is being shut out of a really important process, and more importantly, their life. All this boils down to honing your skills, to partner with the client, and see it as an opportunity for you to help them advocate for themselves versus you advocating for them. Now you can even see it relates to a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. All right, I don't like to just talk about what not to do. Although that's important, I want to talk more about what to do. How will you sharpen your skills, even in simple everyday tasks? Keys to advocacy. Let's discuss how to advocate for and encourage others to advocate for themselves. We've talked about this a lot, but I just don't think I can emphasize it enough. First, we need to listen well. Then we need to speak well, and this will help the process. Let's go back to that situation with Jessica's sandwich. We already know we have 3 choices, right? We can make the sandwich, we can let Jessica make the sandwich, or we can make the sandwich together. Different situations call for different answers. So if we just go into every situation and always make the sandwich, or go into every situation and always let the client make the sandwich, we're missing what it's really all about. The first thing we need to do is back up and make sure we understand what the client really needs and really wants in that situation. We need to be nimble. We need to be creative. And the only way we can do this is to listen and understand where the client is coming from. You don't come from the same place every day, all day long, and in every situation. Neither do our clients. I have a cool example of this partnership that we're talking about. I have a client and a friend named BJ. She's difficult to understand if you don't know her well. So when she went to the doctor and the doctor said she was okay, she came home and then had a chance to talk to her caregiver. She told her caregiver, "I don't think I am better." And the caregiver listened to her, asked good questions, and then was able to call back up the doctor and better explain what BJ was trying to say. The doctor heard the caregiver and knew exactly what was going on in BJ's body and ordered more tests and was able to figure out what was going on for BJ. This is a great example of the partnership advocacy we were just talking about. The client needed to speak, the staff needed to listen, the staff needed to ask good questions, the staff needed to go back and speak to the doctor on the client's behalf. This is partnership and advocacy. Another key to advocacy is to not give up. At times, the people we support need an advocate, and they need to advocate for themselves due to their very difficult challenges. Possibly there's a landlord that's refusing to fix something, or they have a very specific medical need, or they're in some legal hot water and they need some help. The key is to not give up. Disability Rights of California gives this encouragement. It is important not to give up if your first attempt to change something doesn't work out. You may have to stop your plan and try other strategies to get what you want. The important thing to remember is to keep trying until you're satisfied. Good thing that our client BJ didn't give up voicing her concerns and needs. She'd given up, she may not have gotten treated. And I'm worried to think about what that might have meant. Here's another story from Jessica. Her client Leah needed a part really bad for her wheelchair. Without this part, the wheelchair just didn't even work, and it was creating quite a problem for Leah. The company that provided the part was really slow to respond. It seemed that the part had been ordered, but it was taking an unusually long time to arrive, and all the while the client kept waiting with limited mobility. Well, Jessica was not afraid to be persistent. With the assistance and input of the client, Jessica called the company each shift she worked, reminding them that the client was in need. After 2 weeks of not getting the part, someone showed up on the doorstep with the part. Yeah, it can be difficult to keep doing the same thing over and over again, and it can feel awkward to keep calling until someone doesn't even want to take your call. But if you put yourself in the client's place and you empathize with what they're going through, your motivation for making that call is that you don't want to see your client stuck, and that motivation can give you the perseverance you need to not give up. Know where you end and where they begin. This is the key to preventing some of the unwanted symptoms we discussed earlier. It is helpful to clarify, what does this person want for themselves, and what do I want for this person? Now, of course, we all want the best for our clients. However, if I try to make decisions for my client, or I try to tell them what to do based on what I want, this is really control and coercion, not support. I think an important thing here to understand is that you need to know you. Understand your own value systems. Understand what makes you tick. And that's going to help you understand when you're inserting yourself into the situation. I want to use my own example here. When I was a care provider, I had a client who needed to keep about 15 cents in her account to be happy. This was a problem for me. I like at least $100 in my account at all times. I like the safety and the cushion of $100 in my account. She would get down to 15 cents and I would advocate for her. I would tell her how important it was that she kept $100 in her account. Until one day I realized I was the one it was important to, not her. Having some self-awareness about my own values and my own morals and the things that are important to me can help me understand where I end and where she begins. So next I went on to talk about empowering the people we support to self-advocate. So far, our discussion has used some examples about when care providers assist in the advocacy role. It has also included some examples of clients learning to advocate for themselves. But these next few steps are going to talk primarily about a client and them advocating for themselves, what we like to call self-advocacy. Listening. I was very happy to learn that the first skill that the Disability Rights of California lists as a skill in self-advocacy is, you guessed it, listening. Our clients benefit from listening when advocating for themselves. We often focus on our client being heard. We talk about their voice being powerful, about them having a voice, but we don't often spend as much time talking about how to listen. This is just as critical of a skill. Our clients are learning how to have relationships, how to speak their mind, and the only way to truly speak your mind and be heard is also to have the skill of listening. Let me give you an example of this. Say a client wants to move. They keep saying over and over and over again, I want to move. I want to live in a different place. I want to have a yard. We need to listen. They need to be able to voice this. But they also need to listen when we say, hey, that's a great idea, but perhaps you should wait until you have a deposit. Or we say, that's a great idea. Let's go looking next week when the weather's better. If they're only speaking and never listening, we're not having a relationship. And advocacy, in its purest form, is really just a partnership and a relationship. The next thing they need is assertiveness. If you recall from our speaking skills, out of the styles of communication, there was one called assertive communication. Assertive communication are skills to help clearly and honestly express a person's needs. It is important that the people we support know the importance of assertive communication. If their needs are not being met and they feel they are not being heard and understood, it is important that they have the courage and the skills to communicate their needs. This is a learned skill. It's a skill that comes with practice. Advocacy and assertiveness may not be natural to everybody, but they can be learned with practice. The next key is problem solving. A part of never giving up on advocating for a specific need is to have the ability to step back and look for other ways to solve the problem. Let's say that the landlord won't fix the air conditioner. Your client's tried everything that they can think of. They've asked, they've called. We need to learn to look at these situations from a different perspective and request help maybe in a different way. In this example, perhaps it's time to put it in writing or get the CF involved so that there can be more advocates working on the situation. It's a valuable skill for the people we support to learn problem-solving skills. This will help them to continue their advocacy and also get what they need. Another key is asking for help. Help. Those are hard words to say. They're hard words for you and I to say, and they can be hard words for our clients to say. It's important that they learn the skill of asking for help. All right, let's think of this situation. If you get stuck in the bottom of a well, there's no rope, but you can hear people up and around right above you. If you never use the words help and stay silent, you can work on that problem for a really long time without solving it. The same is true for our clients. They need to learn to ask for help. This doesn't just come in the form of the word help. It can come in saying things like, I need your support, I really would like, I need. So listen for those words, because when your client uses those words, they may be asking for help. Let's go back to Kathy Jo. In each of our trainings, we've talked about Kathy Jo, her commitment to grow and expressing her needs and expressing the power that comes from being heard. She's inspired us to want to listen and also inspired other clients in how to express their needs. Now that you understand more about advocacy, you can think back to how the examples we've given are really lessons that Kathy Jo was learning in self-advocacy. Kathy Jo at first didn't want to participate in the decisions of her life, but instead would wait for others to assume what she wanted and do things for her. But after years of learning to say no and to learn to ask for help and learning that her needs matter and are important to be heard, Kathy Jo has become a transformed woman. Kathy Jo's communication skills have grown a lot. They help her direct decisions that she wants to make and communicate what she needs in her life. You would have never guessed that from the woman who would just respond with a giggle. And if you ever meet Kathy Jo, don't be surprised if she wants to say hello to you first. Now that she knows that her voice is powerful, that she is seen, she is heard, and that she has partners in her advocacy journey. Thanks for participating in this class. I hope you've enjoyed it. I truly do hope that you're getting a lot out of these courses. These courses were intended and designed for you to be able to make a difference in what you do every day. Thank you.
If you would like more resources, check out the resources section below and visit the toolbox. Also, to receive credit for this training, click on the link below to take the quiz. Thanks for joining us.